History is replete with grand narratives of power, conquest, and ambition. But sometimes, woven into the fabric of these epic tales, lies a love story so intense, so volatile, it can feel as earth shattering as the political upheavals around it. Such is the saga of Napoleon Bonaparte, the meteoric general who reshaped Europe, and Josephine de Beauharnais, the older sophisticated widow who captured his fierce heart. Their relationship was a tempest of passion, jealousy, betrayal, and ultimately a tragic sacrifice for the sake of an empire. Welcome, I am Dr. Amy Boyington, and this is the story of a love that defied convention, ignited a continent, and became as legendary as the man who waged war across it. Before she was Josephine, Empress of the French, she was Rose de Tacha de la Pagerie, a Creole aristocrat from Martinique. She arrived in Paris as a young woman, marrying Alexandre de Beauharnais, a French aristocrat, and bore him two children, Eugenie and Hortense. Their life, however, was violently disrupted by the French Revolution. In the terrifying crucible of the Reign of Terror, her husband was guillotined in 1794. Rose herself was imprisoned, narrowly escaping the same fate only by the fall of Robespierre, who was one of the most influential figures of the French Revolution. This experience left an indelible mark on Rose. Emerging from prison, a widow with two young children, she found herself navigating the treacherous, decadent, and morally ambiguous society of the Directory. She was an adept survivor, known for her charm, exquisite fashion sense, and ability to cultivate influential connections. Though no longer as young as she once was, she was nearly 33 at this point, and with a hint of the world weariness in her eyes, Rose possessed an irresistible allure. She had learned the hard lessons of survival, marking her both resilient and perhaps a little cynical about matters of the heart. Her charm and social grace made her a fixture in the salons of post-revolutionary Paris, where desperate ambition and fragile power played out daily. Enter Napoleon Bonaparte, a Corsican by birth, just 26 years old. He was a rising star in the French military, known for his brilliant tactical mind and ruthless ambition. He was socially awkward, notoriously unkempt, and utterly consumed by his military career. Compared to the sophisticated Parisian society, he was a rough diamond, yet his raw power and self-belief were undeniable. Our two lovers met in late 1795, likely at the Salon of Barras, a powerful director who was Josephine's lover at the time. Napoleon was instantly, utterly captivated. Josephine, older, experienced, and the epitome of Parisian grace, represented everything he lacked and craved. She was the ideal companion to lend him social polish, a link to the influential circles he needed to conquer. For Josephine, Napoleon offered a powerful protector and a path to financial security, albeit one with a dangerously intense and overtly passionate young suitor. Napoleon's courtship was relentless and feverish. He bombarded her with passionate, often wildly dramatic letters, declaring his all-consuming love and obsession. I wake filled with you, he wrote. Your image and the intoxicating pleasures of last night have left no rest for my senses. Josephine, who was more pragmatic and perhaps a little less initially enamoured, was nevertheless rather flattered and saw the immense potential in this driven young man. Remarkably, they married on March the 9th, 1796, in the rushed civil service, much against the advice of Napoleon's family, who did not like Josephine. She was widowed, she was older. Could she bear children? On their marriage certificate, they fudged their ages. She shaved 2 years off her age, while Napoleon added 18 months to his, just to narrow the age gap. Just 2 days after their wedding, Napoleon departed to command the army of Italy, beginning his meteoric rise, his heart aching for the woman he now called his destiny. From the battlefields of Italy, Napoleon's letters to his beloved Josephine continued, growing ever more ardent, almost desperate in their intensity. His victories were swift and spectacular, turning him into a national hero. But as his fame soared, so did his jealousy and insecurity about his wife. While he was enduring hardships and danger, Josephine was enjoying a lavish social life in Paris, often extravagant and crucially, notoriously unfaithful to Napoleon. Josephine was having a very public affair with a young hussar. It was an open secret in Paris, and news had reached Napoleon. He was utterly enraged, devastated by the betrayal. His letters shifted from tender endearments to furious accusations threatening divorce. Yet, despite his anger, he was inexplicably drawn back to her. Her charm, her unique way of calming his ferocious temper, and perhaps a deep seated need for her sophisticated presence in his life held him captive. It is by this point that he had properly renamed her from Rose to Josephine, and she was happy to be renamed. When Napoleon eventually returned from Egypt in 1799, he was determined to divorce her. Josephine, though, aided by her children, mounted a desperate plea. She locked herself in her room, refusing to see him, then dramatically emerged, collapsing in tears. Napoleon, utterly undone by her distress, famously forgave her. This dramatic reconciliation solidified their bond, albeit with a new understanding. Josephine, having nearly lost him, became more devoted. Napoleon, while never fully trusting her again, recognized her invaluable social and political capital. She was his lucky charm, the elegant consort who could smooth over his rough edges and charm the Parisian elite. Their relationship, forged in a crucible of passion and betrayal, would now face even greater challenges as Napoleon's ambition reached unprecedented heights. With the coup of 1799, Napoleon seized power, becoming first consul. Josephine, now politically astute and fiercely loyal, stood by his side, providing crucial social support and stability. She was the perfect hostess, charming foreign dignitaries and French aristocrats alike, softening Napoleon's often autocratic image. Josephine was also famously fashionable. Everyone loved her style. She had an innate sense of style that everybody wanted to copy. In 1804, a mere 8 years after their rushed civil ceremony, Napoleon declared himself Emperor of the French. He insisted that Josephine be crowned Empress alongside him. Their ceremony at Notre Dame Cathedral, immortalised in this amazing painting behind me, was a moment of supreme triumph and public affirmation of their union. In a defiant gesture to papal authority, Napoleon famously crowned himself, then placed the magnificent imperial diadem upon Josephine's head, solidifying her position as his empress. She had achieved the unimaginable. As Empress, Josephine excelled. She reigned with grace, elegance, and compassion, earning the affection of the French people. She cultivated magnificent gardens, patronised the arts, and established a court renowned for its style. Yet behind the imperial splendour, the shadow of a profound anxiety loomed large. The one thing Josephine could not provide for Napoleon was an heir. Her 2 children were devoted to their stepfather, but the emperor needed a legitimate heir to secure his dynasty. This dynastic imperative, above all else, would prove to be the ultimate test of their extraordinary bond. The pressure on Josephine from Napoleon's family and the weight of the empire was immense and unrelenting. For years, the unspoken issue of an heir hung heavy on their marriage. Napoleon desperately needed a son to establish a legitimate dynasty to ensure the continuity of his new forged empire. And despite his deep love for Josephine, he eventually came to the agonizing conclusion that he had to put the needs of the state above his heart. He tried to ignore it, even suggesting adopting one of Eugenie's sons, so that is, one of Josephine's grandsons. But the political pressure and the demands for a son of France became insurmountable. The decision for a divorce was, for both of them, extremely painful. In November 1809, Napoleon finally broke the news to Josephine. It was a tearful, agonizing conversation, one of the most difficult of his life. He confessed his love for her, but he stated unequivocally that he must divorce her for the good of France. Josephine, heartbroken but understanding, accepted her fate with remarkable dignity. And on the 15th of December 1809, in a small private ceremony, their marriage was formally annulled. Napoleon read a speech expressing his enduring love and gratitude, his voice reportedly cracking with emotion. Josephine, her face etched with sorrow, followed with her own statement, agreeing to the sacrifice for the sake of the empire. She then moved to the Château de Malmaison, her beloved country estate, where Napoleon ensured she would live in grand style with an immense income and the continued title of Empress. The separation was a brutal spectacle, a public spectacle, a poignant testament to the ultimate price of power and ambition. The man who had conquered kingdoms found himself conquered by the very empire he had created, forced to sacrifice the woman he still adored. Within months of the annulment, Napoleon married the young Archduchess Marie-Louise of Austria, a mere teenager. It was a union meant to solidify his position among the old European monarchies, and crucially, to provide an heir. In 1811, his wish was granted with the birth of a son, Napoleon II, the King of Rome. But even with a new life and an heir, Napoleon never truly got over Josephine. He continued to correspond with her, often seeking her counsel, and even sent her gifts and kept her portrait always near him. Josephine, for her part, remained devoted to Napoleon. She meticulously followed news of his campaigns, cheering his victories and despairing over his defeats. She dedicated herself to the gardens at Malmaison, particularly her magnificent collection of roses, finding solace in nature. When Napoleon faced his first major defeat and abdication in 1814, exiled to Elba, Josephine was said to be devastated, famously offering to join him, a gesture that touched him deeply, though I don't really believe she meant it. Tragically, Josephine would not live to see Napoleon's final return from Elba or his ultimate defeat at Waterloo. She died in May 1814, just weeks after his first exile, reportedly from pneumonia. News of her death deeply affected Napoleon on Elba. He locked himself away for days, weeping for his lost love. His enduring affection was clear as well. Upon his final exile to St. Helena, his last words were said to have been, "France, army, head of the army, Josephine." The relationship between Napoleon and Josephine remains one of history's most compelling love stories, a powerful testament to passion, ambition, and sacrifice. Their union, though volatile and ultimately broken, was fundamental to Napoleon's rise. Josephine's elegance and social grace provided the essential polish that the rough-hewn general needed to navigate and conquer the salons of Paris, as much as he conquered battlefields. She lent legitimacy and aristocratic allure to his new imperial court. Josephine's influence extended beyond the emperor's personal life. She became a style icon, setting fashion trends across Europe with her elegant empire-line gowns and elaborate jewels. Her love for roses, cultivated at Malmaison, contributed to the passion for horticulture across the continent. For Napoleon, Josephine was his emotional anchor, his destiny, the one person who could truly soothe his restless, driven soul. Even in their separation, their bond remained a poignant echo of a love that defied the conventions of their age. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have enjoyed it, please like, share, and subscribe. Your support is invaluable to me. And as ever, I will endeavour to keep creating more.